Welcome, everyone. I'm now calling this meeting to order. Please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Gallagher. Please remain standing after that for the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Alderman at Large George Payne.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to meet here tonight, Lord. We thank you for our ability to live in a country where we can freely express our worship to you, Lord. Lord, I pray that you would be in this meeting, Lord, and that you would guide and direct us through everything. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes for the February 7, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for a Freeport warehouse tax exemption for Novak Supply Chain, LLC.
This resolution will authorize the Freeport tax exemption for Novak Supply Chain. As noted by the mayor, it's been recommended by the DeSoto County Council and then also approved by the DeSoto County Supervisors. So tonight, authorization for that Freeport warehouse tax exemption for those goods in transit for Novak Supply Chain, or Novak Supply Chain.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Southaven Police Department agreement with the DLG Learning Center.
This agreement with the DLG Learning Center will provide training for the Southaven Police Department supervisors. The total training cost is $6,045 per year, and it's not a contract necessarily. It's just as we're given the option to renew on a yearly or annual basis. If approved, they'll will authorize Chief Moore to enter into that agreement or enter into the documents required for the training, along with the non-disclosure agreement that we won't basically disclose the contents without having authorization through the company to do so. So tonight, authorization is needed for Chief Moore to sign this, sign the program or allow for the program to continue, and authorize the expenditure of $6,045 for the program.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Jerome. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is a contract with AmeriGas LP.
This contract is just a contract for the propane tanks needed for the new city utility building on Dorchester. The agreement is a form agreement by AmeriGas. It does have a clause in there that notes that if there are any provisions that we can agree to, that we won't be bound by those provisions. So tonight we need authorization for City Clerk Andrea Mullen to sign this agreement with AmeriGas so that account can be set up for the city utility department's propane usage at the new building on Dorchester.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Southaven Police Department license with Axon Enterprises.
Yes, as was previously approved, Axon is the entity that provides the body cameras for the Southaven Police Department. The police department now is requesting a 3-year contract, which will be governed by the master service agreement, which was previously approved as part of the body camera purchase. So that will still be under those same contract terms. This will allow for 4 Evidence.com Pro license. The cost is $5,353 for the license. The license are ancillary to the service that's provided, but they'll randomly allow our supervisors to audit body cameras and in-car videos for quality and compliance with our officers. So this will provide extra accountability for officers, along with allowing our supervisors to review those on a random basis for that accountability that's provided through the body cams and dash cams through Axon's program for our body cameras. So authorization for Chief Moore, his designated sign, is needed tonight for this purchase, along with being governed by the master contract for the body cameras.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for amending the City of Southaven Ordinance Title 10, Chapter 1, Section 10 through 13.
Yeah, this amendment will, as you know, we previously released out the amphitheater since we now will be controlling the amphitheater and utilizing the amphitheater for the city concerts, which will be run and produced by the city and or promoters. This ordinance will help and secure the amphitheater with further security measures as provided in the ordinance. So tonight just need authorization for the ordinance as amended, and so it can go into effect for the amphitheater before the concert season begins. So that's the ordinance for tonight, and any questions I'll be happy to answer.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for updated city record rotation.
Yeah, this resolution will authorize record rotation for the 2023 year for those city records rotation as required by the police department and the policy that's been previously approved. All the entities that are before you have been found in compliance, and authorization to approve this rotation as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a Southaven Fire Department contract with Stryker.
Yeah, this, as you know, that we previously entered in contracts with Stryker for basically for ambulance services or ambulance equipment and bedding that is needed and stretchers. This will authorize Stryker to perform repairs and maintenance for those stretchers at that the EMTs currently use. The cost for the service over a 3-year period is $57,951. That'll be divided into 3 annual payments. And it's also going to be noted that the previous agreements that we've had with Stryker will govern this agreement as well. So tonight we need authorization for Chief Scallions to sign this agreement with Stryker for this repair and maintenance service. And in accord with our previous contracts, also they have inserted language that's required for a governmental entity as well as part of this proposal. So that has been added at our request. So tonight just need authorization, as noted, for Chief Scallions to sign.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on our agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook.
So our first application is by Joshua Mallory for a conditional use permit to allow for full-service spa to be located at 9023 Mill Branch Road. If you'll recall, a few months back, we actually amended our half-mile radius rule to allow 2 within those boundaries. After doing window survey by staff, this is a compliant area. There's only actually one called the Spa on State Line Road, which is in this vicinity. Therefore, it does comply with the rules set forth in the ordinance. We requested and recommended a 1-year permit with a 4-year extension, which is what we normally do on the conditional use permits, and it was voted unanimously by the Planning Commission.
So moved.
A second.
We have a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Jerome. Is there any discussion on item 1? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
So our second application is request for rezoning to PUD for approximately 16 acres. This is going to be on the west side of Snowden Lane, just south of the Kroger complex on the back side of that existing detention pond. You'll see it up there on your aerial photo. There are two areas incorporated into this. Area A, which would consist of 4.44 acres. It's at the north end of the site. This is proposed for an office layout. I think there's a master plan submitted in the documentation where there are several office buildings. They're spec buildings at approximately 16,500 square feet apiece. There's an access road associated with this area at the north end of the site, and a second point, which is a shared access with Area B. That shared access with Area B actually incorporates a roundabout with it, which will be inside the right-of-way that the city currently owns and will work to improve along with the property owners. Area B is 11.39 acres. It's the rest of the property just south of where Area A stops. They would like to use C4 zoning with the removal of automobile dealerships, new and used, rental offices, big box retail, car wash, contractor storage yards, dry cleaning, funeral homes, motor vehicle repair, greenhouse, nursery, full-service laundries, pet grooming without open kennels, and radio towers. In this area, the master plan also shows a small entertainment venue located at the south end of the site with two 18,400 square foot retail buildings kind of U-shaping around it, which you see at that very end on that side. There are also some smaller restaurant/retail areas in this, two of them approximately 6,200 square feet. They have a shared access along two more accesses on this site, all associated with Snowden Lane. The overall height proposed in this area has a maximum of 65 feet, which is the standard height in the area normal for Snowden District. That 65 feet is going to be associated with a possible hotel in that area. They do have some pedestrian trails associated with it. We did give them a typical section of what we would like to see on Snowden Lane, which does incorporate 3 lanes of traffic and a multi-use pedestrian trail on that west side. They have done the amendments to their PUD text to adjust to show that. What you'll also see in the development is that all the parking's on the interior buildings or green space pushed to the front, so you're not looking at seas of asphalt. So we just had a couple of comments regarding it. Again, after the deep discussions we've had with hotels and the stipulations we wanted to put forth, we would like that incorporated into their PUD text, that all of the conditional use regulatory controls we put in place for SRT scales, national market research study, we want all that incorporated into the documentation. We asked also that they remove any sort of retail strip centers, 4 to 8 tenants, wholesale merchandising, and any fast food restaurants. We don't feel that that's going to be very conducive to that area and the traffic in that area. We did confirm with them that the detention pond is of sufficient size. Again, we would like to discuss further the roundabout idea. That's going to be at the entrance of where our soccer fields are. When we get into discussions on the road improvements to Snowden Lane, we're going to take that into consideration. And they did all of the amendments and revisions and addressed all the concerns that we had put in place with the stipulations you see in your staff report. Once those were brought to our attention and addressed by the applicant, Planning Commission did vote unanimously in favor of it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 2 on the agenda as presented.
Second.
On item 2, we have a motion by Alderman Wheeler. We have a second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion?
Whitney, is there any apartments in this?
There is not in this PUD right here. This is all office, venue, and retail.
I'm just going to add, it looks like it fits well in the
Very
entertainment
much so,
district.
yes. They're going to kind of design it to go into the sports theme. We've been kind of talking to the applicant and pushing around some different ideas. It should have a nice feel to it in terms of soccer and baseball and everything going on in the park. So, yeah, very nice.
Any other discussion on item 2? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
So item 3 is going to be the property just south of what we just discussed. It's 12 acres. If you'll remember, it was once the city property. Also contained the maintenance building that was taken down, and the thought behind it was to do a mixed-use development that kind of played into the leisure district and the Silo Square development. So the city sold it, and Kaplan Land Development Company came together with a master plan that you'll see in the booklet. And it does contain several different elements into it. I'll try to go over them really quickly, so if you have any questions, we can address that then. Building A and B, which are up against Getwell Road, are both large footprint buildings. They're commercial and office space only. As you enter the interior of the site, see if we can get, there's a master, like one master design on there. Okay, that one. Up, back. Okay, that one. As you see the roundabout at the front, that is where Getwell Road is. There's a fountain in the middle. The two big boxes I was just talking about, A and B, are on each side of that roundabout. You then go onto the interior of the development, which has a silo field design. It has that Main Street feel. You have two multi-story mixed-use buildings on the interior facing the main thoroughfare there. You hit another roundabout at the end, and you get into another mixed-use building, which kind of takes on a different effect that it's got commercial on the front. And then on the back side of it, where it faces all of that open green space, that is your residential lofts. The green space on the interior has an elevated pool, a dog park, a frisbee golf, a putting green, offer the element for that residential corridor in the back. The two buildings you see on the north and south side in purple are a new element in our housing market that we don't have. They're called walk-up flats. They're two-story flats with like a brownstone stoop porch on the front and back. So everybody who's got the bottom two floors has a stoop, and the people that are on the second and third floor, the third and fourth floor, have their stoop, all with private parking. And then you have an element building facing the soccer field that is solid lofts. There's 54 of them in there. They do meet the same square footage that you have in Silo. And then on the corner where the old maintenance building is, you see a spec building that can hold 1 to 2 restaurants. They're proposing rooftop patio in it, and eateries to kind of cater to the oncoming traffic from soccer and baseball. Again, we went over it several times in terms of parking and uses. They have cut down the uses to try to create something a little bit different than the elements you see in Silo Square to kind of capture some of the missing market and to make it kind of an all-inclusive campus for the living, working, and shopping element. It does fit the profile of the comprehensive plan and what we had foreseen for this development when we sold it. Couple of different comments that they addressed, like I said, was the square footage. Again, typical section of Snowden Lane had to be adjusted because they will have to take on some of that development cost when we get to the widening of the road. They did agree to all of this. Planning Commission voted unanimously in favor of it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to open this up for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion?
I like the front, I'm a little concerned about the back.
Okay.
Feels like apartments to me.
There is one building that has loft apartments in it, yes. That would be very similar to what we already approved in Silo.
Are they condos or apartments?
Well, condos are privately owned individuals, so these would be considered lofts.
Okay.
These are like rentals. They would be rented.
Yes.
But there's, unlike Silo, there's no retail on the bottom.
Portions of it. We have approved 4 loft buildings with Silo as well.
Are the walk-ups also like rentals?
I don't know if you're going to have rentals associated with it. Those are very large.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
It's like a brownstone in New York City.
It's exactly what it is. It's like a brownstone out of New York City.
That sounds good.
What about parking? It looks like a lot of buildings and not a whole lot of parking.
There is underground parking for a lot of it. So some of the parking goes underneath the buildings, but
Would it
per
be
our
below grade or?
below grade. Yes, they the loft buildings you have there all have underground private parking and then overflow exterior parking on the outside. We have done all the calculations for the office and the commercial use along with the residential, and they have met and complied with the parking ratios.
Well, a lot of it, I think again, it's a mixed-use concept, but like some of the buildings are not what we've seen in some of the others because, as Whitney stated, it's a new style that we've not had. This is something you would see in urban areas, so I thought it was really neat because it's something special. The other thing is they have to get maximum use out of the space and to have opportunities for some of the commercial that's towards the Getwell side. You know, it had to be redesigned like that. There was a lot of discussion with Whitney, and I was involved in some of the meetings as well. You know, to make sure that the space was maximized. You know, to make it walkable and still, you know, have that mixed use, true mixed use value where you see the buildings closer to Getwell that, are big enough to actually have something, you know, super nice that would actually fit in with the recreational aspect of the park and all that, like a sporting goods store or something
Right.
like that.
And I will say the buildings you're concerned about, as large as they look on footprint, there's 54 units in the larger building and 16 units of the walk-up flats. So I think the element of high density is not actually is a big of a concern as you might think it is.
So it's 152 one-bedroom homes.
Mhm. Well, no, there's actually, let me rephrase that. So you have the 54 on this side, the walk-up flats are not single bedroom.
Yeah, they put those.
Okay.
I love the roundabouts coming in from Getwell. I thought that was really, it's got a nice touch to it. Really ties into the, you know, the pedestrian-friendly concept. Looks really nice.
You know, something that bothers me is, you know, we're really concerned about the hotel going around across the street over there. We want it to be upscale and
Sure.
and super nice. And this is just, you know, to have apartments across the street.
Well, now, this is not your traditional apartment complex. This is a loft-style apartment. They're the same thing that you're seeing across the street. Different amenities, upscale, you know, that kind of
And
thing.
there's rooftop patios.
Yeah.
All of the buildings you see up there have shared community space on top with patio features, live walls of plant systems that are coming down. It's a different element that we don't have yet. And I understand your concern because everybody has in their mind apartment complex.
Do we have an elevation that you?
There are some in there, but understand that is a conceptual, and every one of these buildings has to come back in front of you. So you can look at the conceptual designs, and I mean there are some in there that will show you the rooftop patios and the design of the buildings, but I don't want to stain that in your mind that that's what it's going to look like because every one of the buildings has to come back to you.
Is it a deal breaker if we ask them to put instead of the apartments only? Is it a deal breaker if we ask them to put some retail?
I mean they're in
there?
the audience. I mean I don't want to speak on their behalf. It's their money and their property, so I can't agree to that. But I mean they're here to talk to you if you've got concerns.
It reminds me of the Pearl in San Antonio. That's what it reminds me of. You don't know what that looks like, look it up.
Schilling Farms and Collierville has a big aspect like this, but it's more of a traditional design. This will be more of a modern design, but they have the sports complex with the loft style apartments that kind of overshadow the field. So
I can assure you, it wouldn't have gotten this far if it were.
I agree.
Yeah, there have been lots of go back to the drawing board.
they're
that
on
won't work.
they're on
Yeah.
Plan Q right now. If
Yeah.
that tells you anything, they started with A.
Well, we're on cue. One, I had recused for a silo because of
Sure.
business interests, so I didn't see those. I'd like to take a look. I'd like to table this until next meeting.
Okay.
Did y'all want to bring up? I know we have ARC reps.
If they have, I'd love to see the elevations too.
It should be in there. If you go through the booklet a little bit more, there should be some elevations.
Do you want to table it tonight, or do you want to hear more?
I can hear more and decide, but
Doug,
I
would
mean-
you come forward?
this elevation is just a picture of another.
I don't see which one that is.
Right.
This is Doug Thornton. He's the
Hey, Doug.
chief architect for AERC.
And we've developed some designs, like Whitney said, we didn't want to muddy the water because we've got to bring it back for design review. But we did look at doing retail on that first building on Snowden, but to do that, we felt like we had to have parking close. And so to maximize that underground parking, it was just getting too complicated and too much, we're ended up with a lot more asphalt doing it that way. And we worked with the city to, there's some nice little patios and stuff on that walkway. So I think it'll be a real community-minded space. It's not going to feel like an apartment block. Each apartment has patios and they're private, but they also look out onto that walkway, and so should be a lot of community interaction there.
I like the design. Everything looks good. I'd like to see front elevation on it.
How tall are they? How many stories?
3 stories on I. The H and J are 4, and then it has the parking underneath.
So 4.
Right. Yeah.
H&J were how many?
4 stories, and then they have parking under as well.
Two
Yeah.
flats, so it's 16 units on each building.
Doug, would you explain, like you did with Whitney and I, explain the flat concept, like that's something
Right.
that's common, like Alderman Flores has seen this before, he understands. A lot of times we bring something new to DeSoto County, it's never been in DeSoto County
Right.
before. So it takes a little bit of explanation to help
Right.
people understand that it's different than what they've seen in another part of the county or city before. So would you just kind of, you know,
Sure.
kind of tell everybody the
Yeah.
details of that?
Both front and back are very similar. What I call the front actually faces into that green space, and they have a walk-up patio that would walk into their living room, kitchen, dining, and then there's a internal set of stairs that goes to bedrooms for that first and second floor flat, and then in the back there's a stair that takes you all the way up to the third and fourth floor flats, and then they have an internal stair within those, and then that community stair actually goes all the way up to the roof, and so the third and fourth floor have their private patio both at the ground floor, as well as they have shared rooftop decks up on top that they have access to. So there's actually 4 stairwells, you know, connecting all of those, and you know, square footage is about 1,700 square feet. They're about 850 square feet per floor, I think, not counting all the stairwells.
That's
So,
the walk-ups.
yes, sir.
How big are the lofts?
The lofts are minimum 930, and I think they're actually running a little bit over that right now.
And that's something we increased it to match silo. Because at first they were proposed to go smaller to get more density, but we had to adjust that to meet what silo got.
Right.
And again, it ties into the concept of, it's not your traditional apartment complex, it's geared more towards empty nesters, you know, single adults, that kind of thing, that ties in with the whole concept of having an entertainment district. That's why I liked it.
What's the back gonna look like on the back?
Front and back are the same elevation, pretty close on both H and J as well as on I. It's going to be very similar. They'll have the same similar patios front and back.
So from the soccer fields, we're not gonna see just a flat building? It's
No,
gonna be-
no, sir. It's got a lot of depth, a lot of play in it, a lot of in patios. Each loft will have a sliding glass door onto the patio, and then, you know, the living spaces will have big windows. So, you know, all brick and fiber cement, you know, materials, long-term, low-maintenance materials. You know, they're building it for the long haul and keep maintenance low. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, since we approved it across the street, I can't see any reason not to make the motion to approve.
Second.
All right, so we, just to revise the motion, Alderman Wheeler's motion is to approve item 3, and then we have a second by Alderman Flores, so we'll keep the floor open for any other discussion. And there, again, Doug, the commercial locations that are closer to Getwell, some of those are sizable enough where you could have, like, I guess what caught my ear was, you know, we're lacking, we have one small outfit there, but with the park and all the amenities that have come with the park, with the expansion of soccer, you know, and the tennis expansion and all the other things that have been added, it could be a prospect for some type of
Right.
sporting goods store, which
Right,
is in
that's who
heavy,
they're marketing to right now.
yeah, which would be in heavy demand right there, which would be outstanding. And then it's been a few months since I've seen this on the green space that's in front. Tell us a little bit about the green space that's in front of,
Yeah,
right there.
it's almost an acre of green space, and, you know, kind of trying to mimic like a collegiate quadrangle is kind of the thought there.
This
And
part.
yes, sir, right there. And within that space, we're going to do some frisbee golf, you know, some of the bocce ball courts. You know,
Pickleball courts.
yeah, could probably work one in. I know that's the hot thing. So, but a lot, you know, it's intended to be a lot of recreational space. The sidewalks are wider than normal for people to walk, skate, talk, you know, and try to bring people together.
I thought it was neat too, just sharing with everybody some of the questions that I asked Doug on the flats. You know, when you come out the back, you're right there on a sidewalk, you know, that goes up Snowden Lane. So that, again, that kind of ties into, you know, everybody talks about they love to see the restaurants and things like that. Well, just kind of going off the Overton Square design. You know, when Overton Square was revitalized, that was one of the big things there to make that work and to have all those restaurants. It's not people driving to get there. It's people that actually live there. Those are your ready-made customers. So having, you know, something that, again, is you know, consistent with a pedestrian-friendly kind of thing, supports the restaurants and kind of supports the whole design. So I thought that was one of the keys that makes it a positive development.
Is there gonna be any gates in this anywhere?
The parking that's under the buildings will probably be gated and controlled since it's for resident, or intended for residents. And that'll be part of the rental package to, you know, have an amenity that costs a little extra to have your own parking space covered under your building. And so that additional security we think is appealing in the market, and so that'll be secured, but everywhere else will be free circulation.
The owner of the property, this design is in keeping with his promise. You know, we just, this may have happened before some of our board members were here, but we sold this. This was city property formerly. We sold this in 2018, and there was a parcel of it that we sold at a discount as an incentive for this to develop, and part of that was that they had to provide, you know, a design, something that was consistent with the entertainment district. And so this is very consistent with what was promised to the city back in 2018 as well. But if they're, again, you know, we want everybody to, we don't ever want anyone to feel rushed. If there's someone on this board that has some heartburn about it, you know, I know Alderman made a motion to approve it, we can vote on that. But if there's any, you know, any concerns that someone wants to make a motion to table it, anyway, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable as much as possible.
I'm good.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, we had a motion to approve item 3 and a second. If there's no other discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion carries. Okay, well, thank you, Whitney. We'll move on. Next on our agenda is our mayor's report. Got a few things to update everyone since we've met last time. I'm going to start, though, first with my favorite thing ever, pothole. I mean, I love to talk about potholes. I love it, don't y'all? And this time of year, it's the perfect storm. So let me just give everybody a recap on potholes again. Potholes can obviously happen anytime during the year, but on February 21st, it's the perfect storm. So you've had frozen weather, cold weather. When you have cracks, and Dan Cordell's not with us, but he's been a good engineering teacher for me. So when you have cracks in your roads and streets, and then when they freeze and ice gets in them, it causes those cracks to expand. Then when it rains and rains and rains, which is common for here in the first 3 months of the year, that rainwater gets down in those cracks and causes it to break even further. Then you start having potholes pop up all over the city. What makes this complicated even more is this time of year to have a good hot asphalt mix, which is the best fix of potholes. It's weather contingent, so you got to have some good weather. So if you don't have good weather, that delays it even more. So that's why this time of year potholes are so obvious to our citizens. I know that I've been contacted just today by the media. They're doing stories on potholes. You know, you're pretty bored if you're going to do a story on a pothole. But anyway, so that's kind of the flavor of the week. So the good news to that is that we're aware of the potholes. Our Public Works Department is prepared to fix the potholes. The other thing too is a lot of times people see the flat patching on a street and they think that, well, the city's going to skip over. They're not going to resurface this street. It's terrible. When you resurface a street, meaning you repave it, put new asphalt over the top, overlay it, you have to fix the potholes underneath. So a lot of times when you see streets that have all these repairs on it, they're being we're waiting on an overlay. So it's not that we just patched a bunch of potholes and left. So that our street resurfacing schedule is scheduled to resume any day. The weather is getting better, and then we will start on our schedule paving all our streets. So we'll start to see turnaround really soon with that. Last week, we got some tremendously positive news. This board and I have worked, some of us for as long as 10 years, on the I-55 widening project. That's a project that is obviously a federal highway system that is administered by MDOT, by the state. And so we've been preaching and begging, explaining the capacity problems that we have. It's very dangerous. It's a public safety hazard because of all the traffic. Then when you have a wreck on the interstate, then it blocks traffic, and then it causes problems throughout our city. When there's a wreck on the interstate, people avoid that. Then they hit airways, they hit Getwell, they hit all the north-south corridors and complicate problems even worse. It makes it even more challenging for our police because we have more wrecks. So it's a major thing. The other thing is it comes with tremendous opportunity cost. I talk with many developers. The area of I-55 and Church Road is one of the most in demand when this interstate system is improved. We have tremendous economic opportunities here. Then when you go further south, getting to, eventually having a Star Landing interchange, going to Hernando, get Hernando's problems fixed. And then ideally, the widening should go all the way to Senatobia in Tate County. So obviously it's very, very expensive. Phase 1 is to go from Goodman Road to Church Road, change it from 4 lanes to 10, rework the Church Road interchange, expanding lanes, adding a loop on the southeast quadrant. All that comes at a little bitty price of $124 million. So the good news is that Governor Reeves did announce with the $1.4 billion in infrastructure bill money, federal money, that he's started to recommend to the legislature how these projects are allocated, and our project was the first one he mentioned. So that's something that we were extremely pleased to see. Like I said, it's not a done deal yet. The legislature will have to allocate that money, but we feel very strongly that we're going to get that project started. Then, as y'all know, when you start talking about an interstate system, you're not going to be driving on it, in a few months. It's a lengthy project. So when we get the money allocated, we're still probably 7 years out before you have the whole thing completed. So let's don't get too excited. But anyway, great news that we finally did get some attention from the state, and for them to recognize that project by Governor Reeves is a big deal. Speaking of traffic, of all the things, I know a lot of people don't understand this, but we're steadily studying our traffic grid. So obviously Southaven is one of the fastest growing cities in the southeastern part of the United States. With that comes traffic. And that's not something that we think about every now and then. We think about it all the time. We have extensive traffic grid improvement plans to widen roads, extend them. A lot of that is contingent upon funding. These are very, very expensive projects, as I mentioned, with the interstate. But the first one that is funded, that's one of our biggest problems, is Getwell South widening project that would go from Church. Everybody knows the mess that's at Church Road and Getwell. Bottlenecks right there. Again, it goes from 5 lanes down. It goes down to basically 2 lanes in most of the areas south of Church. So that project, we applied for federal money in 2015. So we didn't just start thinking about this. 2015, we knew we had a problem. This is not a project that we can go into the city's general fund and write a check for. This is a $14 million project. So when you have projects this large, we do rely on grants and federal funds. So we applied for Metropolitan Planning Organization funds. We were granted that in about 2018, something like that. Then you start the process of all the hoops that your government goes through with MDOT. We've gone through all that. And so the good news is this project is about to be moving dirt within the next 10 days. So since 2015 to now, we're super excited about that. And again, it'll widen the Getwell Road from 5 lanes south of Church all the way to Star Landing. It'll put a new traffic signal at the nightmare of College Road and Getwell. And again, for everybody that doesn't remember, we made a decision for safety of our teenagers to put a temporary signal there. There was not a signal there. We knew we didn't have enough room for a turning lane. Had many residents that lived in Dickens Place and some of the residential neighborhoods there that pleaded with us to go ahead and put something there. They're worried about their teenagers making a left-hand turn. So we knew it was a tough decision. We knew it wasn't going to be an ideal fix, but we felt like our young drivers, it was better to save their life than to have the ideal situation. So we put the temporary light at College. That's why it's been there like that with no turning lane. But this project will widen that intersection and put new signalization there. It'll also do the same thing at Star Landing Road. A lot of people's next question will be, well, why are you stopping at Star Landing Road? That's a great question, Whitney, right? And so with MPO, when you do an application with MPO, you can't duplicate any project. So at that time, there was a county project to widen Getwell from Star Landing south to Pleasant Hill. So we couldn't put that project in ours. So once you start an application with MPO, you can't go back and make major changes to it. So we didn't want to take a chance of starting over and lose the funding for what we had. So we went ahead with our project to Star Landing. So that's why it's ending at Star Landing. That doesn't mean that we're quitting there. We're going to still seek funds to try to get that project extended now from Star Landing. Hopefully, south, when it gets out of the city, we'll get the county to, to explore other avenues to try to get that thing widened all the way to 269. If y'all remember, 269 didn't open until 2018. So when we applied for this, 269 wasn't even in the equation. So anyway, that's the update on that. That's a positive project that will start within the next 10 days. One other special thing. We've all had the winter blues. We're going through winter, but this coming weekend is the first softball tournament at Greenbrook, and y'all know that we've tried for years to try to, contrary to what some think, we have tried to expand our softball program. Obviously, we've had tremendous success with our baseball program, and we've been trying to get the tournaments and the participation up at Greenbrook. And so a lot of things that y'all approved, we built the indoor training facility there. We put artificial turf on all the infields and foul lines at Greenbrook. But the good news is we got 52 teams in this tournament. So this weekend we got 52 teams. So that's it's showing the kind of the fruits of the labor of a lot of people working and y'all allocating money. So that's a good thing that we got that going. But that's basically all I have this evening. So does anyone up here on the board have any questions for me? Okay, we'll move on. Next on our agenda is our personnel docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the personnel docket as presented on this date.
Second?
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion carries. Next on our agenda is our city attorney's legal update. Nothing. Next on the agenda is the utilities billing leak adjustment docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the utility bill leak adjustment docket as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Jerome. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on our agenda are two claims dockets.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve claims docket number 1 in the amount of $3,584,972.06, including demand checks.
Second?
On docket 1, we have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoot.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve docket 2?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve docket number 2 in the amount of $23,023.94.
I'll second.
On docket 2, we have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Jerome. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on our agenda is the purpose of determining the need for executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it. The need this evening is Southaven Police Department personnel, discussion of litigation and prospective litigation in accordance with state law, economic development within the city, and interdepartmental personnel with no action. Is there a motion to declare executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Payne. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. The mayor and board are now in our executive session.